The first time Nyla stepped into Hale Dynamics, the air itself felt too expensive to breathe. Glass walls gleamed like secrets, polished marble mirrored ambition, and every heel click sounded like a contract with destiny. She didn't know it yet, but eyes had already found her. Sharp, watching, claiming. Jordan Hale stood behind his office glass, still as a portrait, his gaze cutting through reflections. She was just another assistant on paper, but something about the way she carried silence made him pause. He told himself it was professionalism. It wasn't. Nyla's first day turned into a heartbeat too loud, a glance too long, and a question she couldn't shake. Why did his eyes feel like a promise and a warning all at once? Beneath the hum of elevators and whispered deals, something began. Quiet, invisible, and irreversible. By the second morning, routine wrapped itself around Nyla like armor. Coffee, elevator, desk, deadlines. Jordan's voice carried through glass and air, smooth and measured. Each word a quiet command. She told herself it was just admiration. Respect for a man who built an empire from nothing. But something about the way he said her name lingered too long, like a secret no one else could hear. In the silence between meetings, she caught glimpses of him watching her reflection instead of the city, and she couldn't decide what scared her more, that he was watching or that she didn't want him to stop. Aisha teased her that evening, calling him Mr. Too Fine to Be Human, but Nyla laughed it off. Still, she felt the echo of his voice in her chest long after she'd left the office. She told herself it was nerves, a new job, new world. Yet, when her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, "You did well today," her breath caught. The words were simple, harmless, yet the tone felt too intimate, too precise. She looked around her apartment, windows shut, blinds drawn, and still felt seen. Jordan's mind never rested. He watched security footage long after hours, justified, he told himself, for safety, but his eyes lingered where they shouldn't. Her smile, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the curve of concentration in her brow, details burned into him like need. He had everything: power, wealth, control, yet every night he came undone by a woman who didn't even know what she meant to him. And somewhere in the dark, obsession began to whisper love's name. Friday came with rain. The storm hit hard against glass, turning the city into liquid reflections. Nyla stayed late, the hum of fluorescent lights her only company. When she turned, Jordan was there, silent, close enough to feel. He didn't speak at first, only handed her a document, fingers grazing hers. The electricity between them felt almost audible, like thunder trying to speak. For a moment, she forgot where she was, who he was. And when he finally said, "You've done more than I expected," she wondered, was he praising her work or confessing something else entirely? The next week blurred between long meetings and longer silences. Jordan's presence shadowed Nyla's days. Every word he spoke felt like it held two meanings. She kept reminding herself of boundaries, professionalism, the paycheck she needed. But each time his hand brushed hers, passing documents, her resolve cracked a little more. His tone grew softer, his eyes darker. It was no longer just admiration. It was gravity, and she was caught in its pull. Every night she replayed their moments in her head, wondering if he did too. And when he started staying late just to check on progress, she knew something dangerous was forming. And neither of them wanted to stop it. By midweek, the rhythm between them had shifted. The office became their silent playground, stolen glances across glass walls, secret smiles in passing. Nyla caught herself waiting for his messages, pretending it was all coincidence. But one afternoon, when she looked up from her screen and found him already staring, she didn't look away. For a heartbeat, the world shrank to two people pretending not to want what they already did. It wasn't love yet. It was hunger wearing a suit. That night, rain returned, and so did he. She should have gone home, but something made her stay. The storm outside matched the chaos inside her. Fear and desire crashing in equal measure. Jordan appeared in the doorway, tie undone. Eyes darker than the sky. "Still here?" he asked softly. The way he said it wasn't a question. It was an invitation. She nodded, heart trembling in her chest. Two lonely souls stayed behind as lightning cut across the skyline, sealing a pact neither spoke aloud. Aisha's voice echoed through Nyla's phone the next morning, teasing, suspicious, half-joking about how much she mentioned her boss. Nyla denied everything, but her reflection in the elevator told the truth. The line between duty and desire was smudged now, and every part of her body remembered that look, that silence. Jordan avoided eye contact that day, but every time he walked past, her pulse betrayed her. The game had changed. They both knew it. The question now was, who would lose control first? That Friday, he called her into his office with no agenda. The air was heavy, charged. She stood by the desk, pretending not to notice his gaze tracing her face like a question he didn't dare ask aloud. Then he said her name, softly, deliberately. "You've become indispensable." It should have sounded like praise, but the way his voice broke on the last word made her shiver. There was something underneath, possession, longing, maybe both. For the first time, she saw him not as her boss, but as a man on the edge of his own undoing. The air between them changed after that night. Meetings became slower, words heavier, every moment stretched longer than it should, and every look carried what neither dared to say. Nyla tried to focus on work, but every time Jordan spoke, her pulse betrayed her. He had crossed some invisible line, and so had she. Desire became routine. Quiet, constant, and danger. By Thursday, she found herself staying after hours again, half hoping he would appear. When he did, it wasn't words that filled the space. It was silence. The kind that feels like a storm about to break. He found excuses to linger, reviewing reports, asking about minor details just to hear her voice. Nyla noticed his restraint, the way he inhaled before speaking, as if holding something back. When their hands brushed over a single page, the world seemed to still. She could feel his heartbeat in the air, quick and uneven. For the first time, she didn't pull away. That touch was small, but it carried everything unsaid. Desire, danger, and the quiet thrill of being wanted too much. When the rain came again that weekend, they were alone in the office. Not by accident. The storm outside throbbed against the windows, thunder sensing with their breathing. He stood behind her chair, silent, close enough for his breath to graze her neck. She turned slowly, eyes rising to meet his. No words passed between them. It was hunger disguised as stillness. The kiss that followed didn't feel planned. It felt inevitable, like something written long before they met. And when it ended, nothing about the world felt the same again. The next morning was unbearable. Every email, every glance, carried the weight of what they'd done. Nyla moved through the office, like she was walking on glass, each second sharp and fragile. Jordan kept his distance, but his eyes said everything he couldn't. She told herself it was a mistake. One night, one moment. But her body refused to believe it, and when their hands brushed again at the morning briefing, her pulse betrayed the truth. Some lines, once crossed, never disappear. That evening, when the office finally emptied, she found herself standing at his door again. She told herself it was to return a document, but her hands were shaking too much for that to be true. Jordan looked up, eyes unreadable, torn between control and want. "You shouldn't be here," he said, but he didn't mean it. Neither did she. The silence stretched, and the city outside blurred into streaks of light. She stepped closer. One heartbeat, then another, until the air between them disappeared. Whatever this was, it had already gone too far to stop. It started with something small. A folder misplaced. A password reset she didn't request. Nyla brushed it off as routine until she noticed her emails being opened before she read them. Her stomach twisted. Late one night, she borrowed Aisha's laptop to check her own records. And that's when she saw it. Surveillance footage. Her. At her desk, in her apartment, even walking home. The files were hidden under company archives, all marked with Jordan's initials. The truth hit like ice water down her spine. He hadn't just watched her at work. He'd been watching her everywhere. Aisha found her sitting on the floor, shaking. When Nyla showed her the footage, silence filled the apartment like smoke. Aisha's face shifted from confusion to rage. "He's been tracking you," she whispered, voice trembling. "That man's dangerous." Nyla wanted to deny it, to believe there was some explanation. Security protocol. Accident. Anything. But deep down, she knew better. She remembered his late-night calls, his knowing glances, how he always seemed one step ahead. Love had never felt like safety, but obsession disguised itself so well. The next day, Nyla walked into the office pretending everything was normal. Her steps were steady, but her pulse betrayed her. Every corner, every reflective surface felt like it held hidden eyes. Jordan greeted her with his usual calm. The same measured tone that once comforted her now made her skin crawl. She smiled back, rehearsed and hollow. The man she thought she knew, the man she almost loved, had been studying her like a file. And now, she was trapped between fear and fury, pretending not to know. That evening, Jordan called her into his office. His tone was soft, almost apologetic. "You've been distant," he said. Nyla forced a smile, hiding the tremor in her hands. "Just tired," she replied. He stepped closer, and she could feel the heat of him. Too close, too knowing. She wanted to scream, to ask why, but instead, she played along, her mind racing. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek, his voice low. "I just want to protect you." And that's when she knew he didn't see her as a person anymore. He saw her as something to keep. That night, Nyla packed a small bag and went to stay with Aisha. Sleep refused to come. She kept replaying every moment, every look, searching for the signs she missed. Love had made her blind. Now it made her furious. She decided to fight back. At dawn, she returned to the office before anyone arrived, her heart pounding as she copied the surveillance files to a flash drive. But just as she was about to leave, she heard the sound of footsteps. She turned. And there he was, standing in the doorway, watching her with eyes that looked less like love and more like possession. The silence in that office was unbearable. Nyla froze, flash drive still in her hand. Jordan's expression wasn't anger. It was hurt, raw and fragile. "You don't understand," he said softly. "Everything I did was to keep you safe." His voice cracked, but she didn't move. The illusion was gone. There was no safety here. Just control, twisted into something that once felt like love. "You were watching me," she whispered. He stepped closer, desperation trembling in his voice. "Because I couldn't lose you." That was when she realized he didn't think he'd done anything wrong. Jordan tried to explain. Security breaches, competitors, excuses that sounded like broken prayers. But before Nyla could respond, the elevator chimed. Marcus Quinn walked in, confident, smiling like he already knew the ending. "I warned you, Hale," he said coolly. "Your obsession was bound to blow up." Nyla stared between them, confusion turning to dread. Marcus had proof, files, screenshots, everything. And suddenly, she understood. He hadn't come to save her. He'd come to use her. Marcus laid the papers on Jordan's desk like a magician revealing a final trick. "You've been sloppy," he said, sliding one photo toward Nyla, her face on a surveillance feed. Jordan's jaw tightened, rage flickering beneath his calm. "This isn't your concern," he warned. But Marcus only smiled wider. "Oh, It's very much my concern, because when this leaks, Hale Dynamics burns. Nyla realized then she was standing in the middle of a war. One fueled by power, pride, and the dangerous kind of love that leaves scars. By afternoon, everything had exploded. Emails leaked, photos circulated. The board demanded answers. Jordan's empire crumbled overnight, his name now whispered like a scandal. Nyla sat in her car outside the building, gripping the steering wheel, tears blurring her view of the city she once loved. She wasn't innocent, but she wasn't guilty either. Just a woman caught between obsession and survival. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jordan. "I need to see you." One last time. Her heart dropped. She should have deleted it, but she didn't. When she met him that night, the office was almost empty. Just echoes and ghosts of what they'd been. Jordan stood by the window. No suit, no mask, just a man undone. "You ruined me," he said quietly, but there was no venom, only sorrow. Nyla stepped closer, voice trembling. "You ruined yourself." For a moment it felt like the air between them could collapse under the weight of everything unspoken. Then he whispered, "I'd do it all again if it meant you'd stay." She turned away, heartbreaking, knowing some loves are meant to destroy. The city felt different now, colder, watching her back. Every headline carried his name, every whisper followed hers. The CEO and his assistant, they said, like a cruel fairy tale gone wrong. Nyla avoided mirrors, avoided questions, avoided herself. Aisha told her to disappear for a while, to start over, but she couldn't. Love doesn't leave quietly. It lingers like smoke. And deep down, she feared what Jordan might do now that he had nothing left to lose. Sometimes, the most dangerous man isn't the one who wants power. It's the one who's already lost it. Jordan vanished from the public eye. No board meetings, no interviews, no trace. But Nyla felt him everywhere, in the rhythm of passing cars, in the stillness before dawn. Then, one night, her phone lit up. "We need to talk. I can't end it like this." The message came from an unknown number, but she knew who it was. Aisha begged her not to go, but curiosity and closure are twins born of heartbreak. Against reason, Nyla agreed to meet him one last time. Love, even when it breaks you, still pulls like gravity. She met him in an empty parking garage beneath the building that once crowned his empire. The sound of dripping water echoed against concrete. He looked different. Unshaven, eyes sunken, suit wrinkled like the end of something grand. "They took everything," he said, voice hoarse. "But they can't take you." His words were a plea, but they felt like a chain. Nyla took a step back. "You don't own me, Jordan." He smiled faintly, broken. "Don't I?" Lightning flashed outside, and for the first time she saw what love had done to him. It had hollowed him out. The next morning, news broke. Marcus had leaked the full video files. Every major outlet replayed them. Nyla's image splashed across screens, her private moments turned into spectacle. Shame and fury intertwined until she couldn't breathe. Jordan's voice echoed in her memory. "I did it to protect you." But protection had become poison. She packed her things, shaking hands and wet eyes, ready to vanish from everything. Still, before she could leave, an envelope slipped under her door. Inside, a single key and a note. "If you still want the truth, come." The key led to his penthouse, the place she'd only ever imagined. When she stepped inside, the city stretched beneath her, silent and endless. On the glass table sat a flash drive labeled "The Beginning." Her fingers trembled as she pressed play. Video after video appeared, not surveillance, but footage of her helping him, laughing, smiling. Moments she'd forgotten. His voiceover came next. "You reminded me what being human felt like." The tears came before she could stop them. Love, she realized, wasn't always born from purity. Sometimes it grew out of madness and pain. And still, somehow, it was real. The flash drive ended with a single video. Jordan alone speaking into the camera. "If you're seeing this," he said, voice low and rough, "then I've already lost everything but you." His eyes, once cold and commanding, were now human, haunted. "I didn't know how to love you without control. I thought keeping you close would save me. I was wrong." Nyla stood there, tears blurring the screen. For the first time, she saw the man behind the obsession, broken, desperate, still hers in some unholy way. But some truths don't heal, some just demand endings. She grabbed her coat and left to find him, not to forgive, but to finish this. She found him where it all began. The Hale Dynamics Tower, empty now. Lights dimmed, Empire hollow. Jordan stood at the window, the city lights flickering beneath him like dying stars. "I knew you'd come," he said without turning. Nyla's voice was steady, though her heart wasn't. "You can't fix what you broke." He turned slowly, pain etched into his face. "I didn't come to fix it. I came to let you go." The words hung in the air, raw and trembling. In that moment, she didn't see a monster, just a man who loved too much, too wrong, for too long. For a long moment, neither spoke. Rain began to fall, drumming softly against the glass. Jordan's voice broke the silence. "You were the only thing that ever felt real." Nyla closed her eyes, her tears matching the rhythm of the storm. "Then why did you destroy it?" she whispered. He stepped closer, but stopped just shy of her reach. "Because I didn't know how to love without fear." Their eyes met, the space between them heavy with everything they couldn't undo. The storm outside grew louder, the wind howling like confession. A security alarm suddenly echoed through the building. Marcus's final strike. Legal teams, police, everything closing in. Jordan smiled faintly, the sound strangely calm in the chaos. "Maybe that's mercy." Nyla reached for his hand just once, her fingers brushing his. "You could still start again," she pleaded. He shook his head, eyes soft. "Not without you." The sirens grew louder. "Then let me go," she whispered. His silence was his answer. And when she turned to leave, he didn't stop her this time. The next morning, the building was sealed off. Jordan Hale was gone. No trace, no note, just silence. Some said he fled. Others whispered he jumped. Nyla stood outside in the gray dawn, watching police lights fade into mist. She didn't cry. Not then. She just breathed, for the first time without fear. The city moved on, as cities do. But sometimes, late at night, when she walked past glass towers and caught her reflection, she swore she saw him there, watching, not haunting, just remembering. Love had ended, but its echo stayed quiet, unbroken, eternal.